My name is Mark. I'm 37, an electrician, and for 11 years I built a life with Claire I thought was honest. We had routines that felt like comfort. Coffee at 7, her laugh when she burned the toast, texts during the day that were little anchors. It wasn't fireworks every night, but it was steady. Or at least that's what I told myself until Ryan's anniversary party. Started small. Claire's excuses for staying late crept from special projects to weekly meetings. I noticed her phone more. Screen down, pockets guarded, conversations clipped into the other room. I shrugged. Trust is a practice, not a patrol. But trust costs when you stop paying attention. Ryan's place was buzzing. Fairy lights, mismatched chairs, people laughing. I showed up thinking it would be normal. Claire's hair fell the way it always did. The dress was the one she wore on our first anniversary. That's the cruelest kind of betrayal, when the mask fits perfectly. She was across the room, talking to a man I didn't know. First I thought it was a new friend. Then I saw the way she leaned in. He took her hand, and she did not pull away. The laughter that followed was too private for a party. My drink sweated in my hand, the ice ticking like a countdown. I walked over because men walk toward things that hurt. I didn't shout. I stood there and listened. They spoke in low phrases, names I'd never heard, plans I hadn't been invited to. When his fingers threaded between hers, the room shrank until it was just us. She looked at me, and for a second her face carried traces of our life. Then she lowered her eyes, like someone who'd been found with a secret she'd accepted. The man mouthed my name without moving his lips. There was a quiet in me that was not peace. Walking away seemed like surrender. Anger is heavy and can ruin what you love if carried wrong. I wanted the next move to be mine, not a reaction. So I left before the party could give them the satisfaction of a scene. That night I did the unromantic thing. I made a list. Names, dates, small details only someone close would know. I checked our accounts for odd charges, searched emails for unfamiliar subscriptions, marked times she said she was working late, and when her phone location disagreed. It felt clinical, but clarity rarely arrives fully formed. Comes in organized pieces. The next week, I kept my face calm at breakfast and smiled through kitchen small talk. People who love you sometimes miss the shadow on your shoulder until you point to it. I didn't point. Instead, I arranged. If trust is broken, transparency should be surgical, not theatrical. I booked a photographer for Sunday to get new family portraits for our moms. The photographer's assistant was an old friend who could catch candid moments. Coincidence is a lazy explanation. On Sunday, Claire wore the blue dress she reserved for things she deemed special. We posed. Our son Ollie pulled a silly face. In the in-between shots, when people forget a lens is watching, I watched something else. I watched her check her phone under the table, angle it away. I watched her thumb quick replies. I watched the way she edged herself toward the man who had been in our photos before him. I am not proud of how certain satisfaction felt when I left that week with images that proved what words could not. But there is a difference between pride and honesty. Honesty asks for evidence when your heart feels lied to. The photographs gave me no theatrics, no staged embrace, no shouting. Just truth framed in ordinary gestures. And truth is heavy enough to shift a life. And I moved on. Monday arrived, and I carried the photographs like a quiet arsenal. I didn't need to confront Claire immediately. Timing is as much part of revenge as evidence. I waited until the next gathering, a brunch at her friend Rachel's house, where everyone we knew would be present. Casual, familiar, the kind of setting where no one suspects tension. Claire arrived, laughing, slightly late, hair brushing her shoulders just so. The man followed, waving at a few acquaintances. I stepped inside, greeting people as though nothing had changed. My phone stayed tucked in my pocket, the photos ready to speak louder than my words. I noticed the subtle shift when she saw me, the tiny flinch before the practiced smile. She assumed my calm meant ignorance. She was wrong. Drinks poured, conversation floated, and I waited for the right moment. Timing is everything. When they all settled into the living room for brunch, I played it innocently. I suggested we look at the new family portraits from last weekend. Claire's smile stiffened. a shadow crossing her face she hoped no one would notice. I passed the phone around casually. People gasped softly as images unfolded. Her hand, the familiar, unguarded intimacy she thought she hid. Nothing crude, nothing staged. Just undeniable proximity. Gestures of familiarity captured in seconds where no one thought to observe. Claire froze. Her laughter ceased. The man beside her paled, understanding he had become part of evidence he could not erase. A hush fell. Friends whispered, eyes darting between her and me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. The photographs spoke, and they carried a weight heavier than my own anger. Her own circle saw what I had seen, the private betrayals now exposed under daylight and casual social scrutiny. She tried to recover, her words fumbling, explanations that sounded rehearsed. But I had rehearsed nothing. The truth needs no embellishment. Her attempts were transparent, desperation carving each syllable. I felt neither victory nor relief, only clarity. The crowd saw the contrast. Me composed, observing, the quiet eye of inevitability. Her unraveling, caught by the camera and the audience alike. After a moment, I quietly collected my son and left. No shouting, no drama beyond the gentle shock in the room. Outside, the air felt sharp, but lighter. The burden of silence, the tension of suspicion, finally shifted. Inside, Claire would face questions she could not avoid. I had chosen my battlefield, and the war was won without a single raised hand. Days passed. Conversations with friends who had witnessed the event reinforced what I already knew. The subtle power of truth outweighs lies and deception. I did not revel in shame or humiliation. I did not gloat. I had simply returned honesty to a space where it had been absent. And that is its own kind of revenge. Claire tried to apologize later. A text punctuated with half-hearted words, vague and hollow. I did not reply immediately. Some lessons require patience to land. My response came later, a measured acknowledgement, clear and distant. Boundaries established without rage. Control regained not through confrontation, but through proof, presence, and calm. The dynamic had shifted. No theatrics, no chaos, just the quiet weight of truth. I moved forward with Ali, planning new routines, new experiences, free from pretense. The man in question faded from our lives as evidence became a deterrent. Claire's social circle now recognized the reality she had tried to mask. And me? I reclaimed not only peace but the awareness that deception cannot survive when light is applied patiently, methodically. It was not about humiliation. It was about clarity, ownership, and the unspoken understanding that actions always carry consequences. In the weeks following, Claire approached me privately, her tone subdued, almost tentative. I listened. No recriminations, no dramatic confrontations. Her apologies lacked the depth to change past actions, but the acknowledgement was there. I accepted it calmly, not for reconciliation, but for the closure necessary to move forward. Freedom is often the result of measured responses, not impulsive reactions. That understanding has reshaped how I navigate relationships, trust, and boundaries. Looking back, I realized that the party was never about spectacle. It was the stage where truths, long hidden, were revealed. The revenge was not in confrontation or humiliation, but in reclaiming agency, in demonstrating that awareness and patience can serve justice more effectively than anger. The epic part of the revenge lay not in a scene of chaos, but in the quiet restoration of dignity and clarity, for me and for my son. And so I walk forward. The life I imagined with Claire ended, but a new chapter began. One with honesty as its foundation, vigilance as its guide, and peace as its reward. The most epic revenge, I learned, is not in theatrics, but in reclaiming yourself, exposing deception, and moving on with a clear heart.